Trifecta by Dean Pearl. Copyright 2025. Chapter 1. Hey Maggie, how about one last shot before I go out there to brave that cold? Okay, Max, coming right up. It was past 2 a.m., and Maggie watched as the last few customers were wandering out. The bartender at Smooth's place was doing her count and her cleanup as Max, the entertainer that week, sidled up to the bar with his guitar case for one last drink before walking home on the coldest night of the year. She didn't mind pouring Max a drink after last call, since he got his drinks free anyway. It didn't affect her count for the night, and she knew it would probably affect her tip jar for the evening. Max was a George, the name she called good tippers. As she walked the double shot of Jose Cuervo over to Max, he reached over to Maggie's tip jar and she saw him put in a $10 bill. That was his modus operandi. Since his drinks were free all night, he would always just leave a $10 bill in the tip jar for the bartender. Maggie respected that about Max, since most of the other entertainers who played there figured since they were drinking free as part of their pay deal, there was no need to tip the servers. "How'd the register do tonight?" Max asked out of curiosity. There wasn't much of a crowd for a Friday night, but he figured it was just a weather issue. The weather folks on TV were going on and on about how it would get below freezing, and they should cover plants, etc. So he was glad that at least the people who did venture out seemed to be ready for a good time. The dance floor was going steady all night, and his own tip jar had pulled in a respectable $77, which was okay for a Friday, but great for such a small crowd. Actually, for the number of people that showed up, we did a pretty good ring. It's something about you that makes people want to drink. Maggie laughed at the quizzical look on Max's face. It's okay, Max. That's a compliment. Max laughed along at the joke, because it wasn't the first time a bar owner or bartender had said something similar to him over the years. One club owner once remarked about an Elvis impersonator who used to pack his place on the nights the Elvis guy played, but told Max, who also played there, that he would have better rings with Max playing to a dozen people than the Elvis guy would do with the room full. When Max asked him why that was, he told him the Elvis guy's crowd was mostly people who he went to church with, and they would all just sit there taking up space and ordering soft drinks and a basket of fries for the whole table, whereas Max's crowd would order dinners and lots of alcohol. The owner told him that besides the ring, he also had to hire extra servers to wait on the extra people. He realized after 4 consecutive weeks with the Elvis guy that he wasn't making any money, so he let him go. Even though he filled the seats with asses, he did much better with Max. "I've been known to have that effect on people," Max smiled at Maggie. "It will probably be better tomorrow," Maggie assured him. "Yeah, I heard it's going to warm up tomorrow for a while," Max responded. He had been playing every Friday and Saturday at Smooth's place for a couple of months now. It was a good steady gig, but he was longing for something else. He was wanting to maybe put a small band together. It was more fun playing live than to tracks, and he hadn't played in a group for years since he started doing a solo act. It was better pay, and there was no band drama about what songs to play or rehearsals, etc. As he took his last slug of tequila, Max got up from the bar, grabbed his guitar, and said goodnight to Maggie and a couple other employees who were still mingling about. As he stepped out the front door, the wind almost knocked him over. It was gusting so hard. Max pulled up the collar on his coat, gave a little shiver, then started walking the 6 blocks back to his house. "This is the fucking desert," Max said out loud to no one. "Vegas is supposed to be hot." He continued shuffling past a number of businesses along his route, barely taking the time to look in the windows as he picked up his pace a bit, hoping to help him stay warm. Suddenly, as he passed an alleyway between businesses, a man stepped right out in front of him and pointed a pistol at him. Max jumped at first as the stranger scared him, even before noticing that he was armed. Max's first thought was to strike out at the man, maybe use his case as a shield and a battering ram to take the guy down. But as soon as he noticed the gun, he quickly thought better of it. "Put that guitar down," the man ordered. Max complied with his demand as he set the guitar case down and then put his hands up. "Now give me your wallet," the thief insisted. "Okay, look, I'll give you all my money, but please just leave me the other stuff. My credit card is no good to you since I'm already over my spending limit, and no one wants to go to the DMV to get a license replaced, right?" Max tried to sound light and joking, but the robber was having none of it. "Just give me your fucking wallet," the thief demanded. Max reached into his back pocket to get his wallet. Being thankful he had at least put his tip money for the night in a different pocket, and handed it to the crook, who immediately started rifling through it for anything valuable. $27, that's all you got?" asked the robber. "Where's the money they paid you to play tonight, and where's your tips?" Max reached into the pocket that had the tips, but just grabbed the folded paycheck he was also carrying in that pocket. "They pay me with a check," Max said. "You want it?" No, I don't want a fucking check. The man was getting angry. Where's your tips? He demanded. That's where the $27 in my wallet came from, Max lied. In fact, 10 of that was already mine, and I only got 17 in tips because it was so slow. In frustration, the criminal took the money from the wallet and then threw the wallet down at Max's feet. Now slide that guitar case over here, too, and your cell phone. Max was hoping he wasn't going to take his guitar. He'd just gotten it a couple months before, and he dreaded having to come up with the money for a new one. At least his phone was an older model that he was wanting to replace anyway. However, rather than chance being shot and maybe killed, he pushed the case with his foot to move it closer to the stranger who picked it up, then tossed the phone to him as well. The stranger pocketed the phone, then turned and ran down the same alleyway he popped out of. Max just stood there for a minute, contemplating what to do. He couldn't call the police until he got home, so he just started walking at a quickened pace. He was about 2 blocks from home when he noticed a store in the little strip mall he was passing that said, "The Johnson Self-Defense Dojo." It was a place where people took karate lessons and such as a form of self-defense. He paused for a moment as he walked up to the window and tried to look inside. It was dark, but he could still see in a bit from the lights overhead from the sign advertising the name. As he looked around, he thought it wouldn't be an awful idea to maybe take some lessons himself. He wondered if it could have made a difference in the evening's events, as he pictured himself delivering a well-placed karate kick to his robber and taking him down. Then shaking his head, he thought it was probably just a place where people took their kids to learn karate to protect themselves from bullies at school. Or maybe single women worried about getting raped and stuff. Certainly not for a grown man to learn self-defense. He started off again on his way home, with visions of what would have been heroic moves by him to take that thief down. He was very tired by the time he got home, and he fell asleep shortly after hitting the pillow, only to dream of being a badass dude, defeating felons trying to take advantage of good people. In his dream, he was a superhero.